Mike, ETA 2 minutes. Maintain present course.
Holy shit. Alex Mercer.
Anytime you release a game, there's just this huge volume of feedback that comes through with reviews and gaming blogs and so on and so forth. And I think we really took a lot of that feedback to heart. One of the largest criticisms for the first game was that the visuals were quite bland and it didn't really look competitive to what was out there. And I hope you guys would agree that we've done a lot of work, and part of that effort over those 2 years is just revamping the graphics engine and really pushing that envelope in terms of an open world that still feels and looks like a cutting-edge game. Another one for me personally is just revamping the combat system ever so slightly. A lot of people really enjoyed the first game, enjoyed kind of the scale of the action. You're fighting tanks and helicopters and guys with rocket launchers. It gets pretty crazy, but in a lot of ways it was overwhelming for people trying to deal with all that. This time around with Prototype 2, we really kind of focused on the tutorials, first of all, and can understand that by laying that groundwork, by giving people the knowledge of the tools they have in their toolbox, they're able to kind of read and react to situations a lot better. So, those are just a couple of things that we've worked really hard on in Prototype 2.
Repetition was another issue that a lot of fans singled out with Prototype. How have you addressed that in Prototype 2, and in particular side missions and BlackNet?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot of things we've done. I mean, repetition is definitely something we've taken to heart. One of the first things that we can talk about on the repetition front is just making sure that, again, players understand all the different things they can do. What happened in Prototype 1 is that players found the 1 or 2 powers that they really liked, and whether that was claws or blade, they basically stuck to that power the entire time just because I don't know what else to do. I'm just going to press this button, I'm just going to keep pressing it until everybody falls down, and generally that worked. This time around we want to make sure there's a lot more variety in the kind of moment-to-moment gameplay, so even things like the tactical dodge and the blocks, it really paces the moment-to-moment gameplay out. In terms of the larger scale things, talking about the missions and some of the BlackNet stuff, we focus really hard on bringing some of those side missions and side events back into the fiction and the universe of Prototype. And I think a big part of it is context. If you look at any game, whether it's GTA or Assassin's Creed, the core things that you're doing, there's not that much, in terms of you're driving, you're shooting, you're talking to bad guys, and you're killing bad guys. But it's all in the setup, the delivery of the lines, the context, who you're talking to. And I think that's what makes things interesting, that's what keeps things fresh. And we've taken those lessons and tried to apply them to Prototype 2.
Obviously, Prototype was more of an origin story. Alex coming to terms with his abilities, his memory loss, and then in the sequel, a game driven by revenge. Ultimately, they're similar sort of issues. Was that deliberate, and was there concern that they may feel a little too samey with a different character? Yeah,
I think it was a little bit deliberate. We want to show that both Heller and Mercer, they are people that want to do things. With Alex in particular, I think some of his motivation was quite unclear throughout the story of the first game. I think that's one of the criticisms where, I don't really know what Alex is doing. I'm just going about cutting people in half, and I didn't really pay attention to the story. And by doing James Heller's backstory and making a much more personal story for Heller, I think, again, players can kind of understand the motivation and understand what he's all about. And, contrasting those two sets up a really interesting dynamic where, at certain points, is Mercer a bad guy? Well, maybe, yes, no. James Heller certainly thinks he's a bad guy, but as you see, nothing is really black and white. There's all sorts of shades of gray in between, and finding out that story and figuring it out, what actually happened, I think, is really important to Heller and really important to the player as they play through Prototype 2.
Ninja 3-3, this is Red Crown. We're sending reinforcements to your location. Do not pursue Mercer. Repeat.
Red Crown, be advised. I'm not in fucking Black Watch.